This is a Global Skills Podcast, conversations that shape the future of work and learning. We're exploring how we close the skills gap and build a future where everyone has the chance to thrive. From education to business, connecting people, ideas, and opportunities that drive change. It's about collaboration, curiosity, and creating real impact today. Because every skill learned brings us one step closer to a more inclusive world. The Global Skills Podcast, where learning and opportunity come together. Welcome to the Global Skills Podcast. And in today's episode, we welcome Alvaro Gonzalez, founder and CEO of Dawere, Latin America's first accredited online high school. A telecommunications engineer turned edtech innovator, Alvaro is transforming access to education for the underserved youth across the region through digital learning, AI tutors, and partnerships with UNICEF, USAID, and other global organizations. Alvaro, you're so welcome to the Global Skills Podcast.
Hi, Vanessa. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited about our conversation. It's not every day that someone wants to talk about education with me, so I'll take every chance I have.
Oh, well, let's do it, because I think the first thing when people maybe hear that introduction is to hear a virtual high school. Can you just describe, what does that mean and what is it?
Yeah, I think virtual education might be commonplace in places like US or I don't know, maybe Europe, but in Latin America it was very innovative. It was something very new. There was no legal framework for it, but there was a big need from the population in general. Like 50% of people in Latin America did not have a high school diploma. Over 20 years old don't have a high school diploma. And that just talks to the challenges that they face to complete their high school education. And, I was just reflecting on what I could do for these people. And I got to the concept or the idea that education was the way that I could add more value to this underserved communities, but I was a telecommunications engineer. So I ended up with the idea of online high school. I mixed technology with education, and that's how it got started. And it's just as it sounds. We started in Venezuela. So we got the best teachers from the most prestigious private schools in the country. We got them to a studio, and we filmed 2,000 video classes. We virtualized the entire high school curriculum. We did lectures, study guides, formative assessments, summative assessments, projects, these tutors. And now we're doing oral assessments as well based in AI technology. We have not stopped since. Then it started as an online high school in Venezuela, but we very fast, we launched in Colombia as well. Then our most successful online school has been in the US. Then we launched Mexico, Honduras, Dominican Republic, and eventually the Inter-American Development Bank just told us, we've been following your work. How could we help? How could we help you have a greater impact in the educational sector in Latin America? And I said, well, maybe we could get this online high school as a SaaS. We can turn this online high school as a SaaS platform, a white label SaaS platform for other schools and governments to launch their own online school or to support their educational processes. And they loved that idea. They provided the capital to do that. And that happened in 2024. We are providing that digital infrastructure to help the virtual education thrive in Latin America. So it's been quite a ride, 10 years now. I'm happy. I'm happy with the results. It's been very difficult, especially since there's no clear legal framework in most of these countries where we're working in. So yeah, that's where we are right now.
So how many people have gone through the program? How many students have graduated?
About 12,000 people have gone through the program, and we have graduated about 2,000 students. We currently have over 3,000 enrolled students, and that's just in our school. And now that we have about little less than 30 schools using our platform. So that's the new EduGogo platform. That's the name, EduGogo. It's our SaaS platform. It's been interesting because we're really proposing something that's very controversial. Right? We're saying, look, education is changing, and now we have these AI technologies, and you can kind of delegate instruction to a platform. And this platform is going to be a lot more, how do you say this? It's going to be able to serve students better in the terms of providing small nuggets of information, then doing a formative assessments, then providing feedback constantly in the right timing for students to be able to correct their knowledge, and then do a formative assessments again. And when you try to do that in a group setting, in a classroom setting, it's impossible for teachers to pay that much personalized attention to a student. But when students do that through a platform, the platform is perfect to do this, right? And then teachers can use their attention, or their role varies. It's very different from what they've been doing in the past. And now teachers are able to connect with students and try to work on their soft skills. So what we're basically doing is saying, you know what, you don't have to go all the way. You don't have to completely change what your teachers are doing. We can just configure this virtual mirror of your school. So you have whatever goes on your face-to-face interactions in school time, but then your students have this platform where they can go and see video classes and see what the study guides that we have there, and they can talk to a virtual tutor, and that will help them solve any questions that they might not have understood, any concepts that they might not have understood in the normal classroom. And that's kind of the ideas of Benjamin Bloom. I don't know if you ever heard about this US researcher, very famous. And basically he said that he has this learning or this teaching methodology in which he could get all students to be high achievers. And the way that he did that was by providing small pieces of information, then formative assessments, then feedback, automatic feedback, constant feedback, and then formative assessments again. And then you don't move to the next subject or the next topic until the student has mastered that topic, right? And that's how you make sure that no student is left behind. But imagine doing that in a classroom setting. So he posted as a question. We have demonstrated that this works. And we have demonstrated through the Two Sigma problem that we are able to get every student to be a high achiever. Now, the question remains of how do we do this in group settings at scale? And I think this question was resolved when artificial intelligence came into the marketplace, right? When we had these technologies and we could apply it to education. So that's kind of our conversations now with schools, and I think the most innovative schools are open to trying it, and we have to build up the evidence that this is working and that students are getting higher achievements or yeah, getting better grades.
But I think, as you said, it's not just even about the higher grades, it's developing those human soft skills, which it's such an interesting point. The idea of, okay, there's AI and remote learning, which if they can do more of the hard skills education. And I was only at dinner time yesterday talking to my daughter who's just started we call it secondary school in Ireland, but it's like a high school. And she's so tired. Like, she's gone from primary school to secondary school. The hours have increased to 3-4 hours a day. She's getting the bus back and forth. And then she's got 2 hours of homework in the evening, and she's not optimized. And the educational system is just like it was when I was in school. And when I was talking to her, we were just playing out different learning models. I said, imagine a bit like what you said, if you were taught a piece of education, then you were coached, assessed, and if you needed more coaching, you got that. But
Yeah.
what you're saying is you've been able to bring this all online. So you're really empowering the student to do that, and you're freeing the teacher up to really work on the human skills.
Right, right. Have you heard about alpha schools in the US? Oh, you're gonna love them. So they really empowered me to talk about this because I was seeing in the Wedit platform that students were connecting about an hour a day in average. So it was very little time that they were investing in the platform. But when we applied standardized assessments, they were getting above average in mathematics with the U.S. national average. We were above that in mathematics, right? So I'm saying, okay, so we're a young school, right? We have 6 years working, but if we're getting these results now and we're going to keep getting better, and that made me feel that we were not doing a bad job, because when I saw that on average students were investing so little time in the platform, I got worried. But then I heard the principals and the founders of Alpha Schools, and this is a high end school, and they're like in 99 percentile in the standardized test that we use. That's NWEA. It's a great standardized test in the U.S. And they said the same thing. They're only investing 2 hours a day. The first 2 hours a day, they do all the academic work. They do the national curriculum in those 2 hours, and then the rest of the day is just soft skills, and it's helping students pursue their interest. And they don't call them teachers, it's like mentors. These mentors in the room, their role is to connect with students, understand them, and learn what motivates them, understand their family reality, right? And once they have that deep connection, then they can teach them how to take on big challenges. How can they manage their emotions? How can they be more pursue their entrepreneurship ideas? And public speaking, and they're very concentrated in this soft skills idea, and students love it because they get to pursue what they want to do in life, and they get to connect that passion and those dreams with the national curriculum, so it all makes a lot more sense, and
I,
school is fun for them.
I had an off the record conversation with a principal of a high school. And she said something really interesting to me. She said there's a real divide at the moment happening across the workforce within schools, where you have and I don't know what age this happens. So let's just say it's maybe 45 and under that are embracing AI, digital. They're understanding the importance of human skills. They understand the importance of evolving the curriculum if we're really to future proof young kids into whatever careers are going to look like in 5 to 10 years. And then you've people who've done it for 20, 30 years, and they're just like, I can see the retirement line, and I'm not degrading them in any way, but the idea of like overhauling how they teach
Yeah.
and learning AI, and it's just not in their wheelhouse. And so there's this divide happening. And I guess my question is, do you think it's going to be new schools like yours that are going to lead the way, or do you think innovation is happening in traditional schools?
Oh, I think the innovation is going to be happening. It's going to be led by innovative schools like ours and alpha schools and other schools like that. But then traditional schools are going to follow, just because the economics. Because when you start having this type of podcast and talking about these ideas, and parents catch on and they see what's possible, and they understand that there are schools that are working this way, and that their students are going to be future proof, then they're going to migrate to those schools, and those schools are going to simply do better economic wise, like financially wise. And then other schools are going to want to copy that eventually. I think it's going to be slower than people think. I think a lot of technologists are talking about how fast AI is going to change our society. But I think that one thing is to build that technology and understanding the capabilities. And then another thing is having society assimilate that, and having teachers and school owners understanding what's going on, and then, okay, we have to move in that direction, but I have this workforce, these teachers that are not prepared to do so, so I'm going to try to implement this as I can, and it's going to be slower, to help their workforce catch on or maybe retire. And it's going to be a little bit slower than a lot of technologists think, but it's definitely going to happen. And I've been shy to talking about this to schools because I don't think that they will understand. I'm being a little bit more aggressive now, but in the past, as I've seen this coming, I didn't want to talk to them about it. I was just concentrating on building our own school.
Yeah.
But now that we have this SaaS platform, I'm having these conversations with them, and I try to ease it in. I'm saying, you could have both, do the same thing that you've been doing for the past 100 years, and then have your virtual platform in place so that students that need extra help and can't pay for one-on-one tutoring services, then they can go into the platform and do that with their AI tutor, right? And that's going to help them so much.
So we have common ground when we were talking before because we work a little bit further along the chain with higher education, but actually we do have a pilot happening with the school very shortly with the school's passport. And the reason where we were approached on this, where the opportunity exists perhaps, is we're discovering that young people are very aware that traditional careers are changing. They're probably more aware than their
Mm,
parents.
mm,
We're still hearing scenarios where maybe parents are saying, well, you will be a lawyer, you will be a doctor. But if you look at what the forecast is, many of these roles are going to change dramatically. And so 4 7 years in university will not make sense for that career path that may not exist. It's already happening in tech and digital. Look at coders, 3
mm.
4 year degree. And now it's, well, you need to actually be able to prompt and vibe code, not code. So some people might argue that is coding. But anyway, I guess my question is, are you now seeing 15, 16, 17-year-olds become very aware of the changing employment landscape? And what guidance are you providing them, if any, in terms of pathways once they've graduated?
Yeah, this is a challenge for us. I think that I guess that how we help them is by allowing them to pursue a high school education only using an hour a day of their time. So they have the rest of the day to pursue whatever passion they have. And I try to communicate that to parents and I tell them, Dawere is great and I know you love it. And we've built it with a lot of love and thinking about the student, but it's not enough. We don't have this as students in a building. It's completely virtual, right? So students need to go and engage the world in other activities. So what are their passions? What do they want to do? Do they want to, create content? Do they want to do sports? Do they want to do music? Do they want to, and you have to provide those opportunities for them. So what we've done is kind of get the national curriculum out of the way, or being more efficient and doing that national curriculum in 1 hour, 2 hours a day, so that your kid can go and pursue the world as he wishes. And the thing is that when he's able to graduate from high school through a platform like the Wede, that builds his self-esteem and his confidence because he now has ownership of his own learning, and he is responsible for managing his time. And when you treat him like an adult and you give them those responsibilities and he's able to manage them, he starts to transfer those knowledges, those that knowledge to other part of his life. So he's going to be able to pursue his passions in a much more effective way. And that's kind of how we think about it. And it's difficult for us because we have students in 42 different countries. So pursuing a higher education in each country is different. So it's hard for us to really be a counselor for our students in every country where they might be, because we don't know the university system in all of those countries. But that's kind of what we do. We kind of free their time and treat them and give them the autonomy to pursue their passions.
And I think that's hugely important. But a question I have before I forget to ask is, can anyone register anywhere in the world? And where is the accreditation based when I graduate from the high school?
Completely. Great question. Yeah. We're based in Florida, and Florida has been a great place to do this global online school. We have just launched our English program completely in English, and we have big plans for that program. We started in Spanish, so it was for Latin America, basically. But since we have some success with that Spanish program, we're thinking, hey, is this something that could benefit students in Africa or students in India that want to pursue a high school education in the U.S. because they might, they might want to move there or something. That's kind of the thinking that got us to launch our English program. And it's all very low cost, right? All of our programs are very low cost because we are serving vulnerable communities and low income families. So yeah, it's accredited by Cognia. It's the biggest and more rigorous accreditation agency in the U.S. They have a 120-year history. They accredit more than 35,000 schools worldwide. So they're great, and we learned so much from going through their accreditation process. Uh, yeah, they have about
Blowing my mind over like what you're telling. I didn't know that this was out there. I didn't know it was possible what you do.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, yes, yes. And actually in the US there are hundreds of online schools, but they're kind of expensive. And I guess that what's innovative about what we're doing is that it's completely tailored for low income families. We thought about what happens if they have a electric or power shortage while they taking a test, or if they lose internet, if they don't have internet access, how can we help them? So we created an app where you can download the content to your phone and you can study offline. So we've been for the last 10 years, we're thinking about their problems and how to build a platform and a school to help this type of students to being able to complete their high school education. And there's so many of them, you know.
As you're talking, at the same time, I'm thinking about guests that I'm interviewing now on the apprenticeship side of things because, okay, well, we know where higher education is and there is a gap with industry and they are trying to address it. And there are graduate programs that they're taking a hit. I know employment is rising for graduates, but I'm interested in just tapping into apprenticeship programs because traditionally they were being perceived as plumbers and electricians and but I think what's really interesting is those apprenticeship programs are evolving. I heard about one last week that is now in recruitment, another one that's in AI. So all these mini academies. Do you see a future where I don't want to say kids because they're mini adults, young adults
Yeah.
could go from high school straight into an apprenticeship program if we understood the skills connection between what's happening in high school and what could be acquired in an apprenticeship program?
I totally see that future, and I think it's kind of inevitable, but we would have to be able to certify their skills, right? Because when you want to hire someone, I'm not so interested in what university they went to. I just want to know if they're going to be able to do the job that I need them for, right? And the way that I work now is that whenever I need to learn something, I'm not thinking about going to university to learn these concepts or these skills. I just know I have to go online, go look at a video, ask chat gpt or Gemini or whatever and learn the skill and apply it in my business. That's kind of how I feel. University just it's not an option for me. I can't spend 2 years going to school and put my business on hold while I'll do that. I have to learn as I go. And I think more and more students are going to do that organically. Like, I want to create content. Okay, so how does marketing work, and how do I do my business plan, and how I'm going to monetize this? And they can learn all that online. And as more online schools as they were to exist and they get their high school diploma online, they're gonna the next question they ask us is, what else can I do online? Like what else can I learn? Do you have any other courses? Do you have a university career that I could do online? And we don't, but we do refer them to our partners. But it just opens a world to them because, oh, I can do everything online.
Yeah, and I think if there's any heads of curriculum in universities listening in or even leadership in universities, I think this is such untapped potential. Like the traditional, you go through your former education and you always have this nostalgic view. I mean, I think about my secondary school. I'm sure there was days I was miserable, but when I think about it, it's fun. It's the same as
Yes.
my university. I went to
Yes.
be and it's but I think they're not availing of that nostalgic piece of if they activated lifelong learning, if they made it virtual or remote,
Yes.
and it's the accreditation. Like I think we go and choose a university because the brand is well recognized, but they're not actually, and you said at the very beginning, and it is a plug for what I do on the other side with the Bodo, it's the skills passport. Like how can we accredit skills? Because
Hmm.
as a former recruiter, when I would get 100 CVs through and I'm trying to fill a role, a degree in X, Y, and Z is not telling me the skills. And then I have to go and look that up. And, naturally you're too busy to do that for everyone. So now you've introduced bias in the process. From that piece of like skills accreditation and this idea of lifelong learning and understanding skills gaps and personalizing pathways. And have you any plans with your organization in the future of like, how could you continue to be a lifelong learning partner of your graduates?
That's why I think that what you guys are doing is so interesting, because it's a big challenge to kind of get ahead of the world of what's going to be needed in 4 years, and try to guide this youth, these young kids, these young adults into what skills they should develop to be able to find a job once they're through their education. I think of paramount importance, and I'm glad we connected. But yeah, so what we're thinking, or what we're focused on, is in providing the tools for schools to being able to be as efficient as possible to go through the national curriculum. And then what we want to develop next is how to develop those soft skills in their students. Because what we feel is that if students have the confidence and the tools to learn online, if they know that they can learn online, then whatever change may come their way, they're going to be able to surpass that. Because I know I can learn this. Oh, it's vibe coding now. Okay, I know I can do this. Oh, it's I don't know, it's this any other technology that may come our way is robotics. It's a new type of computation, a new type of computers. Okay, it's probably online. I could probably go and ask GPT or whatever AI platform out there. I could Google it. And they have that confidence. And so that's how I feel that we're going to make these kids future proof, by providing the confidence that they need and the soft skills that they need to go learn anything they wish.
Okay, so I couldn't agree more. And I'm just thinking now, we're in our audience for the Global Skills newsletter has been a lot of people from government that are
Hmm.
focused on skills education. So if they're listening now, what words of wisdom, advice, insights could you give to government officials as to what could they do to help all of this happen?
Thank you for this question. First of all, you need to have a clear legal framework for online education. Whatever that may be, think about it, discuss it with the decision makers in your organization, but there has to be a clear legal framework. And then what I've learned over the years working in different countries in Latin America is that the most successful educational systems are those that have the wider choice, wider opportunities for every type of student. So you might have programs for adult education, or online schooling, or public school, private school. So you might want what you want is a big range of opportunities and alternatives for people that want to complete their high school education. So don't think that this is the right way, because people are so varied. They have so many different situations in life that they need a lot of alternatives to be able to complete and pursue their dreams. And I wish more governments would see it that way.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you said earlier on, if generally they react on facts and statistics, and obviously you're relatively new with your school, evidence that we can provide around how closing the skills gap and giving alternative ways to learn. And I think that's why the apprenticeship programs are interesting, because I remember being in school and there was this student. She was phenomenal. And in Ireland, we do kind of mock exams before the big state exams. She nailed it, like nailed it. And that's meant to be the one that's, you might score, say, 75%, and then you might score higher the next. But she did the top mark. But when
Mm,
it came to the actual exam, and let's face it, it's a memory test. She crumbled. And so
mm.
her goals of being a doctor were destroyed overnight.
Oh my God.
It felt like for 6 years, she gave it everything. I think the system from that perspective, if we can look at, I know in Europe, we're looking more at general assessments. How can we assess as
Hmm.
we go? So what are your thoughts around that, around like the one final exam across subjects versus this continual assessment on skills acquisition?
I I lean toward continuous assessment. I guess you might, as a government, you might think about having a standardized test in the end, because you want to keep a quality control over what it means to be a high school graduate. So that exam might make sense, but I think you should have several opportunities to take it.
Yeah.
Because for this specific case that you were telling us about, this kid, maybe she just got nervous, but she has the knowledge, she has the grit, and she had the potential to be a great doctor. And it was just one thing, one opportunity she got, and then her dreams destroyed basically. So yeah, it's I would lean into several opportunities. Basically, you want to build a society that people are able to pursue their dreams freely and have as many shots on target as possible, you know. It doesn't matter, as many opportunities as they need, and it doesn't matter where you were born, that you are able to pursue your passions. And that's what inspired me so much about online education, because in Latin America, private, like a quality private education, it's only for the privileged. Public education is not that good. You might not relate to this because in Europe it's better. The public education here is a lot better. I say here because right now I'm in Spain, but in Latin America that's not the case. And people that are going to public education normally have a lot more barriers for completing their high school education. Maybe they have to walk to school or take a public bus, and it might be dangerous. They might have to go through a dangerous neighborhood. They might not be eating 3 times a day. And when you add up all of these barriers, it just gets so difficult to complete your education and pursue your dreams. So you're kind of stuck. And that's why online education, I think it's so inclusive, because if you have to work to help support your family, you could do this online high school from your work or through in your lunch hour. You know, you have time to do this and help your family support themselves. If you're a teenage mother, then you could do this from home while you take care of your kid. If you're a athlete, because you know a lot of these kids, they want to play baseball or they want to play soccer because that's the way of getting out of poverty, you might be able to pursue that sports career while you do your high school education, so you have more opportunities. If that doesn't go through, then and most of them don't become a professional baseball or soccer player. So that's why online education for me is so important. But I've come to understand that it's not the only solution. We need to get these technologies into traditional schools, because it's just gruesome, as you said, how your daughter feels. It's just painful to go through that process, and it shouldn't be. If we look back at the concepts that we had to learn through high school, it's so beautiful, everything that you have to learn through high school. If you had the time to really just marvel at what a cell is, and being able to really inquire everything that you want about the cell and biology, or whatever subject that might get you wondering, but you don't have time. You have like some weeks, and then you have a test, and you have to do that. And I have to also do these extracurricular activities that I'm involved in. And you just go through it as best as you can, running to comply with society, because I have to do it in this time and this allotted time. So it's not the best experience. And I love how alpha schools and these new innovative schools are changing that. And they're saying, you know what, we have an hour a day, 2 hours a day to do that, and then we can explore the world through your eyes, however you see fit. And what I'm saying is that a lot of entrepreneurs are coming to Dawere, and they're telling us, you know, we want to use your platform because I want to build a school for athletes. So it's a school for entrepreneurs. I want a school for artists. I want a school for, you know, whatever. And what I'm seeing is that there's going to be a rise of these specialized schools for kids that already know what they like, already know what type of life they want to pursue. And you can go to a school that's designed for that type of student. And I think that's beautiful. I can't wait for that future.
We are so, and I think we're nearly there. Like we're so in sync. I know I said to you before, like the meaning where we come up with the name Abodu was this belief that everyone should have access to learning and work, which is the do. And if they have that, have a home abode. And I know it's quite far removed from, we do skills technology and AI, but that's kind of our mission. And I'd love to touch on that entrepreneurial point, because you kind of very quickly at the beginning said, oh, well, I was an engineer and then I had this idea and I set up the business and you set up a school. And I think the reason I'd love to know just what were the key steps and what was the real driver for you, because I'm sure it wasn't easy. I'm sure it was hard. It was 10 years ago now. But I ask it from the perspective of, if you're a teacher listening today and you're thinking, God, I want to make a change. I really want to do something. Can you just share a little bit about that section of your life, what you did to make it happen that might inspire them to bring it into their school?
Sure. Well, I was lucky in the sense that I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur since age 6. I played, that was my game. I played selling my toys to the people that went to my neighbors, the people that went in front of my house. I was a typical lemonade stand kid that, I played. That was my game. So, and I did it all through high school, college. And then when I graduated, um, I was inspired by how the Venezuelan society was crumbling, and we were in political and societal turmoil. And I really wanted to do something for my country. And the answer for me was education. I thought that the origin for most of our problems was the lack of proper education and opportunities for all. Yeah. And that's why, these populist ideas were so effective, with the Venezuelan people in the beginning, and then it really deformed and whatever, and what happened with Venezuela, but that was what inspired me, and it was very important for me to have a bigger ambition and a sense that I wanted to serve a greater good. That really helped me get over all the pain that it means to do a startup. So as a teachers, if there's teachers hearing us and they're connecting with our message and they want to bring these technologies to their schools, but they know it's going to be hard, I would invite them to think of their students. Think of the lives, the thousands of lives that they're going to touch if they go through this, if they go through this pain to implement technologies and the best teaching methodologies that we now know and are possible thanks to artificial intelligence. Imagine that thousands of kids are going to have a better life because you took this decision now.
We have a tradition to close the podcast with 2 questions. I ask, you only have to answer one. The first question is there a skill that you had when you were a kid that you don't use anymore that you'd love to again? And if so, why? Or if you're a young person listening today, what would you say is the most important skill to go and acquire?
Oh, I'm going to go with the second one. I think it's a superpower to be a learner and having a learner mindset and go into every conversation and every situation in life as if you're a student. If you're able to do that and you learn every day, sooner than later you're gonna reach any goal that you aspire to, because you're just gonna build the skills. And if you once you think you're a specialist and you've conquered that skill, if you can still remain a student of it, oh wow, the sky's the limit.
Alvaro, thank you so much for coming on to the episode today. If people want to check out Dawere, where do they go? What's the best place?
Yes, you can go to dawere.com. That's DAWERE.com. Also edugogo.ai, and or in LinkedIn you can reach me out in LinkedIn at Alvaro Gonzalez.
We'll make sure to put the links below. I have really enjoyed this and I look forward to whatever lies ahead for us in future collaborations. But I just want to say thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Vanessa. This was great. I really enjoyed it.
Whether you're leading a business, shaping education, planning your next career move, or just starting out, you're part of a global conversation about how we learn, work, and grow. If you've enjoyed this episode, tap subscribe so you never miss the latest insights. And if you've a moment, leaving a quick rating really helps people find the show. For early access to new episodes, event invitations, and the chance to connect with others driving real change, join the community at globalskillspodcast.com. The future of skills belongs to all of us. Proudly sponsored by Abodu, empowering organisations and educators with world-class skills technology to build a better future for everyone.